Hello friends and welcome to the Southern Mountain Kitchen. Today we're going to make barbecued meatballs. So what you see on my counter is what we're going to use to make these. There's really not a lot going into it. Just the stuff to make the meatballs themselves from scratch, and then some stuff to make the barbecue. And we're going to cook these in a skillet. These aren't going to be baked in the oven or anything like that. So this really is not a hard process. Only takes a few minutes, and they turn out the best meatballs, but they have that barbecue flavor to them that really kicks. So I think you just might like this if you give this one a try. So we're going to start out with our onion, which is a medium onion. We're going to cut this into small pieces. We don't want really huge chunks because what's going to be inside of the meatball we want to cook, so we want to make sure that it's not that big a piece. So go ahead and cut these across each other, like just cut the thing in half, cut it across, and then cut it across that. So basically we're just chopping this into very smaller pieces. We don't want anything jumbo going into this. And once this is done, we'll move on to the next step. But make sure that once you've cut up your onion that it is broken up into pieces. And if you want to run the knife over it to chop it up even smaller, go for it. Just make sure that everything is broken up into small pieces we can use. So we're going to start with a large bowl, which we are adding a pound of ground beef to. Then we're going to add some seasoning. So we have a half teaspoon of salt, a half teaspoon of pepper, and 1 teaspoon of Italian seasoning. We have a tablespoon of minced garlic going into this. Make sure you get all that out of the bowl. Then after that, we are going to add 1 large egg to it. Now, when you put your egg in, I always like just to break the yolk just to make sure that it's completely broken up before we get going. So that way it's a little easier when you go to mixing. And then we're going to go on from there, and we're going to use some roasted red peppers, which you get these out of a jar. Basically, they already come chopped up for the most part. But it's 1/4 of a cup. And then to this, we're adding 1/3 of a cup of Italian breadcrumbs, which already has some Italian seasoning in it. And then I'm going to mix this up a little bit with the spatula, but I have come to know that when you're making meatballs, you have to use your hand to mix this. So it's one of those things, mix as much as you can, then if you have to, go to the hand, but I think it's going to be the case that you have to do it by hand. Now, a lot of people complain and say you got to wear gloves to do this. You don't. If you wash your hands like I do, and I wash my hands continuously the whole time I'm cooking, I mean before, after, during, it's really okay to use your hand. But if you want the gloves, use the gloves. It's your choice. It's just something that this is your choice and nobody can tell you right or wrong about it. So go ahead and mix this up, and we want to pull all the ingredients together until we're basically forming a big ball out of this stuff and it's all sticking together. And you want to work the peppers into it and everything to make sure that they are in the inside of the meat. Now, yes, we cut up onions. We're not to that point yet. They're going to come in after this, just for the fact that I like to put the onions in and then mix them around and into the beef, so that way there's a bunch of onion on the outside. Because when this is cooking, I like to have some of the onion fall off into the pan. It just kind of works because meatballs do that as they cook. Some of the stuff on the outside will come off. But when the onion does that, and then you mix it in with the barbecue later, it really works just to give it a little bit of a kick of flavor in what you're eating, because the onion is cooked a little bit more. So as you can see, mine is mixed together here. So it's time to bring those onions in. So we're going to put in all of them, and then we're going to mix this through just like we did with the other ingredients. And that way, a lot of onion is going to be on the outside as much as there's a lot going to be on the inside. It's deliberate. I did it on purpose. If you want to put it all on the inside, that's perfectly fine. I just like the taste of the way it mixes in with the barbecue later. So just go ahead and work this, and once again form that ball that we had before. And then once we get this all mixed up, we're going to go ahead and roll out the balls. But one thing you're going to need is something to put them on. Now, I have one of these flexible cutting board deals that works so great for everything. So I just basically used it so that way as I'm rolling out these meatballs, I can just sit them right on it until I'm ready to put them into the skillet. It's just an easy movable thing, and it just works for me. So. And the best thing about it is you can get these things from like the dollar store. You get like 2 of them for $1.25. Not bad. So go ahead and roll out your meatballs. You're going to probably get, depending on the size you're making of these, about 12 maybe. Mine are a little bit on the big side, so it might just be that mine would come out around 11. But just roll up each one, make sure you press them really in to make sure that all of the stuff on the outside is sticking to it, all of the stuff on the inside is really compacted, because when we move these around the skillet, if it's really loose, it will fall apart a little bit, but that's fine. It doesn't really matter because it's still very much edible and usable with the barbecue sauce. So just work your way through all of these. And in the meantime, you are going to need a large skillet to cook these in, so make sure you have one handy. And you're going to need some oil, which I use olive oil to do this. So we just want to make sure that we have all these things ready before we move on to the next step. And just go ahead and keep rolling these out until you get to the last one, which I just did. And these are some healthy sized meatballs, so this really works out really well. So put like maybe 4 tablespoons of olive oil into your pan if you want to give yourself enough in there as far as nothing's going to stick. And then we're going to load these in the pan one by one and just set them down gently so that way we don't knock them apart. And we're going to go ahead and have that heat on medium high because we want to cook these in the pan. When they start to brown, they need to be in there at least maybe 8 minutes, maybe 10, depending on how big your meatball is. And we're going to rotate these as they're cooking to make sure that it doesn't get too dark on one side, because we wanted to get brown on the bottom and then flip it over and start cooking on the other side, as you can see what I just did here. And just move them around and make sure that you don't see any pink on the sides or anything like that. We just want to make sure that they cook for over 8 minutes. If it takes 10, let it be 10. Now as they cook, like I said, sometimes the onion and stuff on the outer edges will pop off. That's perfectly fine because it's going to blend in with the barbecue and it's just going to add to the flavor. Now when you get to the point where these are cooked but you're about ready to do the barbecue, if you have a huge amount of oil from where you've cooked the beef and everything in here, go ahead and remove the majority of it. I mean, you can leave a little bit in, but just, you know, you can spoon this out if you need to, or you can get something and hold on to a paper towel and literally just like soak up a bunch of it just to get it out of the way, because you don't want greasy barbecue. But we want to actually get out as much as possible, and there's still going to be some in there because when I do mine, I always have a little left, and that's okay, but you don't want a ton of it. So if you can, just go ahead and make sure you get the most of it out. And once they're to a point where they are cooked through, we start adding the ingredients that we're going to use for our barbecue, because we're going to use a couple of different things together to make this. So as you can see, I removed the majority of the oil from mine, and I'm putting in at least 2 tablespoons of chili sauce. That kind of gives this a really good kick and a flavor that really is kind of a little spicy but not too bad. And then we're bringing in at least a cup of barbecue sauce, and you can use any kind you want. I'm using honey barbecue because I like Sweet Baby Ray's honey barbecue. It's really got a great taste to it. And just pour that all over top of your meatballs, and we're gonna like turn that heat down to anywhere between low to medium, because we don't want these things like cooking and scorching or anything like that. We just want them to stay hot enough to where this barbecue sauce is going to cook in. And we're going to leave these in here for at least another 5 minutes, so make sure the sauce is covered all over them, and that way they're good and coated. And as they cook, this is just going to simmer into the meatballs and give them even more flavor. So just make sure that they're completely coated, and like I said, get that heat down so that way they're not really scorched or anything like that. And just cook them, and when they're done, they will look something like this. And you serve them with some vegetables or whatever, and this has the best taste because it's something totally different you're not expecting, but it's really great. I hope you liked this video, and if you did, please like and subscribe. And if you get a chance, check out the Southern Mountain Kitchen website where you can get a free recipe, check out the cookbooks available from the Southern Mountain Kitchen, and if you'd like to, you could order a cookbook at a discounted price, cheaper than Amazon, with shipping that is also cheaper than Amazon. So if you get a chance, check it out, and I hope you have a great day.